Now I've pre-mixed all the liquid here, that be the honey, the molasses and the oil, and I'm combining that to the water. I've added some of the water here already. I have the rest here lukewarm. And for those of you who are not kind of baking on a daily basis, be absolutely sure that the water is no more than lukewarm. Too warm and it's going to kill the yeast, and your bread will not rise. So I'm adding this to the water. It kind of mixes a little better in that way, and I'm going to add that to all the dry ingredients which I have already in the bowl. And there we go. I'm going to start machine, and it goes on just lowest setting for about 10 minutes or so. Should do. A little bit more down in the bottom here. And just make sure that I get it all in. And one thing that you want the dough should be, well, it may take a few tries, but it should eventually be a little gooey, sticky, but not runny, because you want so that you can slice your rye bread in about well, 1/4 of an inch slices without it falling apart. But that may take a few tries where you kind of bake one and find out that it was not just right. You have to adjust a little bit. But I'll show you a little later kind of how the dough turned out. So we're going to let this go for another like 10 minutes or so. Now a few minutes has it has been stirring here, and the dough, it seems just a little too wet for me. So I could add just a little bit more flour, a spoon or maybe 2, but I haven't yet added the cocoa powder, and that may just do it. So I'm gonna try first just to add the cocoa. It makes the dough a little darker. It doesn't change the taste that much, a little bit, but mostly it's the color. And I may just get the right consistency of the dough. If not, I'm gonna add just a little bit more flour. And now I think I got the consistency I wanted. Looks pretty good. And actually the cocoa powder, the 2 spoons of cocoa powder just made it right. Otherwise, yeah, I still could have added a little flour, but this was enough. Also, when it's mixing, then make sure that there is no dry dough on the, or dry flour on the bottom, because that will kind of throw the consistency off a little later when you mix it in. But anyway, it should be so that it doesn't pour, but you have to kind of really help it out of the container here, and then you kind of divide it into these 2 forms. See, pretty kind of bit on the gooey side, and as I think I mentioned before, if it's a bit too runny, then when you cut thin slices, they're going to fall apart on you. And rye bread, you don't, this kind of rye bread certainly, you don't necessarily want to slice too thick. So, but again, you do it a few times, you kind of see the result, and you'll know how to adjust it a little bit more your way. So, you see, this is not like a dough that you can knead with your hands. So there you go. And And I'm going to shape it a little bit, just when it bakes. Eventually, after it has risen, it falls down a little bit, so when it raises, I kind of want it to rise in the middle, so that later with the baked bread you don't have something that kind of dips down in the middle. And the consistency of the dough here should be so that when you kind of push it up on the sides here, it should just be able to maintain its shape. So I kind of shape a little bit like this. There. And on the other one as well. And it just kind of maintains without flattening out again. And that's exactly what I want. And now, after a bit over an hour and a quarter, 20 minutes or so, bread has risen and it's ready to go in the oven and bake. So there are 2 loaves in the oven and another 2 on the stove rising, waiting for their turn. And here are the finished loaves just out of the oven, still hot, quite hot. I'm going to let them cool down just a little bit and then wrap them in saran wrap. That helps making the crust just a little soft, otherwise they can be pretty difficult to slice. But anyway, that's the result, and I'll show you later the finished product when they've cooled down. You shouldn't slice these when they're warm at all. They have to cool down completely, as while rye bread is warm still, it's still gooey in the middle and will pretty much stick to the knife. So let them cool all the way down, and when they're cold, then slice and enjoy. Now cooled off and ready to slice, and see what the consistency is like here. In about 1/4 of an inch in thickness, and it should be able to hold together. Slightly on the warm side, but okay to slice though. Bon appetit.